Jordan Whitfield was 34 years old, and he had a ring in his jacket pocket. He had picked it up that same morning, freshly resized, velvet box warm from his body heat, because in 3 weeks he was going to get down on one knee and propose to the woman he loved. He came home early that afternoon simply because he wanted to be near her. He let himself in quietly through the side door. And before he could even set down his keys, he heard her voice carrying from the living room. She was on FaceTime with her best friend, comfortable, unguarded, completely certain she was alone. Jordan stopped walking because she was talking about him. And what Dominique said about the man standing in that hallway, the man whose ring was still warm in his pocket, was so dismissive, so deliberate, and so final that the proposal he had been planning for months died right there in that hallway before he ever said a word. He did not move. He did not make a sound. He just stood there and listened until he had heard enough. Then he walked back out of the same door he came in. And everything that happened after that, she never saw coming. Before we jump into the story, comment where in the world you are watching from and subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you need to hear. The sky was still purple when Jordan Whitfield pulled onto the job site. Dawn had not fully broken. The streetlights were still on. His truck's headlights swept across the skeleton of the house, framing exposed, roof open to the morning air, plywood stacked in the yard like a promise waiting to be kept. He cut the engine, picked up his coffee, and sat there for a moment, just looking at it. This was his favorite part of any job, before the crew arrived, before the noise, before everything became motion and decision and problem-solving. This quiet moment, just him and the structure, when a building was stripped all the way down to what it actually was. He could read a house the way some men read faces. Every gap, every joint, every load-bearing wall. He saw it all at once, understood it all at once, knew without being told what was holding and what was failing. 8 years of working under Raymond Collier's name had given him that. 8 years of doing the work while someone else put their name on it. 8 years before he finally walked away and founded Whitfield Builds at 29 with a second-hand truck, 3 good tools, and a reputation he had built entirely with his hands. That was 5 years ago. The company was profitable now, growing. His crew was small but solid, and every one of them had been chosen the way Jordan chose everything, carefully and without rushing. He got out of the truck and unrolled the blueprints across the hood. The crew arrived at 7:10. 7 men. They moved with the easy efficiency of people who knew their jobs and trusted the man running the site. Jordan greeted each of them by name. Marcus, Deshawn, Tito, the others, asked about Marcus's daughter, who had just started middle school, asked Tito if his truck had been looked at yet. Small talk, genuine. He remembered everything he was ever told about the people who worked for him. That was not a strategy. That was just who he was. By 8:30, they were deep into it. Saws running, lumber moving, the site humming with the specific rhythm of men who knew what they were building toward. Jordan was reviewing a section of the revised framing plan near the back of the structure when he spotted it. A young guy on the crew, Marcus had vouched for him, 2 weeks on the job, eager and a little too fast, had run a series of boards in the wrong orientation on a section of the interior wall framing. Not dangerous yet. But if it got sheeted over, it would be a problem that cost 3 times as long to fix later as it would right now. Jordan crouched down beside the work. He did not call the kid out across the site. He did not raise his voice. He waited until the young man turned around and saw him there. "Come here a second," Jordan said. Quiet. Even. The kid, his name was Darius, came over with the particular careful walk of someone bracing for something. Jordan pointed. "See how these are running?" Darius looked. "Yeah. Which direction does the load travel in this wall?" A pause. Darius studied it. His face changed when he saw it. "Vertical," he said. "Right." Jordan tapped the misaligned boards. "So, what are these doing?" Darius crouched down beside him, looked at his own work, and understood. "They're fighting the load." "They're fighting the load," Jordan confirmed. "He did not say you did this wrong. He did not need to. We catch it now, it takes 40 minutes. We catch it after the sheet goes up, it takes half a day and a bad conversation with the client." He stood. "Which one do you want?" Darius was already reaching for the lumber. "Take your time with it," Jordan said, and moved on. He owned the house he lived in. Bought it 7 years ago when the neighborhood was not yet what it was becoming. Renovated it himself on evenings and weekends over the course of a year. It was worth 3 times what he paid for it now. He also held 2 rental properties, both renovated, both occupied, both generating steady monthly income that went directly into an investment account he rarely touched. Nobody who looked at Jordan Whitfield on a job site would have guessed any of that. He drove a work truck. He wore Carhartt jackets. He showed up before dawn and left after everyone else. His money was quiet because he had built it quiet, piece by piece, the same way he built everything, starting with the foundation. Only 2 people knew the full picture. Andre, his brother, who worked in finance and understood numbers the way Jordan understood structures, and Camille Okafor, his business attorney since Whitfield Builds was 2 years old, who had organized the legal scaffolding around everything he owned. He had never felt the need to tell anyone else. Full partnership, in his mind, had to be earned before it was granted. He was not there yet with anyone. Almost, though. He was eating lunch in his truck. Sandwich, thermos, the blueprints spread across the passenger seat, when his phone buzzed on the dash. A local number. The jewelry store. He answered. "Mr. Whitfield? This is calling to let you know your ring is ready. The resizing came out beautifully. You can pick it up whenever you'd like." Jordan looked out through the windshield at the house, at the framing, at the work. "I'll be there tomorrow morning," he said, "before the job site." The jewelry store opened at 9. Jordan was there at 8:45. He sat in his truck in the empty parking lot with the engine off, watching the lights come on inside through the front glass. A woman in a burgundy blazer moved behind the display cases, turning on lamps, unlocking the front door from the inside. The street behind him was just starting to fill up. A delivery truck, a jogger, a woman walking a dog that kept stopping to investigate everything. Jordan did not mind the wait. He was good at waiting. When the door opened, he went inside. The same woman who had called him yesterday met him at the counter with a professional smile and disappeared into the back. She returned with a small black velvet box on a white cloth tray and set it down in front of him the way someone sets down something they understand matters. He opened it. The ring sat in its little groove of velvet, polished and exact. Simple setting, clean lines. He had picked it because it looked like something built to last, rather than something built to impress. Dominique had admired something similar in a store window 3 months ago. Offhand, not knowing he was cataloging it. He had been cataloging a lot of things for a long time. The woman asked if everything looked right. "Yes," he said. "It's right." He paid, thanked her, and walked back out to the parking lot. He stood beside his truck for a moment in the cool morning air, the box closed in his hand, not opening it again, just holding it, feeling the small weight of it and everything it meant. He had been with Dominique for 2 years. He had not rushed a single day of it. He had watched and listened and waited until he was certain, completely certain. And then he had gone and bought the ring. That was 3 weeks ago. He had been planning the moment carefully since then. He put the box in his jacket pocket, got in the truck, and drove to the job site. He noticed his hand drifting to his jacket pocket before he even realized he was doing it. The first time was mid-morning, standing at the back of the site watching Deshawn and Tito wrestle a long beam into position. His right hand just moved there on its own, fingers finding the small rectangular shape through the fabric, pressing once and pulling away, like checking that something valuable was still where he left it. It happened again during a materials call, and again when he was crouched over the foundation plans, not anxious, not nervous, just the quiet, reflexive need to confirm it was there, the way a man touches his chest pocket to make sure his wallet is present. Habit formed out of meaning, not worry. He liked having it on him. That surprised him a little. He had expected to feel the weight of it as pressure. Instead, it felt like ballast, like something that kept him steady and level in a way he could not quite explain. The inspection call came at 2:30. One of the city inspectors had a family situation and needed to reschedule. Could they push to next Tuesday? Jordan said yes without hesitation. It was a minor setback, easy to absorb. He confirmed Tuesday, hung up, and looked around the site. His crew could carry the afternoon without him. Marcus knew the plan. Everything was moving the way it was supposed to move. He thought about going back to the office to get ahead of some paperwork. He thought about swinging by the supply yard to confirm a delivery date. He thought about 3 things he could do with 2 free afternoon hours that would have been practical and productive. Then he thought about Dominique. She worked from home on Thursdays. Right now, she was probably at her desk in the corner of her living room, laptop open, coffee going cold the way it always did because she made it, and then forgot to drink it. She would have her hair up. She would be wearing something comfortable. She would look up when she heard him come in, and her face would do the thing it did, that particular softening, that quick, warm shift, and he would not say anything about the ring. He was not going to do that yet. He just wanted to be near her. He told Marcus he was heading out. Marcus nodded, without looking up from what he was doing. He used his key on the side door, the entrance off the kitchen hallway that skipped the front steps, and the loud welcome of the hinges that always announced visitors on the main door. He was not trying to be quiet for any reason. He was just being considerate. He always came in the sideway when she was working so the sound of his arrival would not break her concentration all at once. He stepped inside, pulled the door closed behind him, reached back to turn the deadbolt. And then he heard her voice. She was in the living room, animated, relaxed. The loose, easy sound of someone comfortable in a conversation. They were not performing for anyone but themselves. His keys were still in his hand. He heard her say his name. He stopped walking. He did not move. His keys were in his right hand. The velvet box was in his left jacket pocket. He could feel both of them, the cold teeth of the keys pressing into his palm, and the small, warm weight of the box against his ribs. He stood in his own hallway, and he did not move, and he listened. "I mean, Jordan is sweet," Dominique was saying. "He genuinely is. But sweetness is like a pause." He could hear her shifting on the couch, the soft sound of fabric. "It's like, okay, great. You're sweet. What else?" Tasha's voice came through the phone, a little thinner, the way voices sound on speaker. "What do you mean? What else?" "I mean, he's a contractor, Tasha." She said the word the way you say a word you have already decided the value of, flat, final, like a door closing. He drives out to job sites every morning, and he manages his little crew, and he comes home, and that's it. That's the whole thing. That's all there is. Jordan's hand tightened slightly around his keys. "He does well for himself, though," Tasha said. "Doesn't he? I mean, sure. He's comfortable. He's not broke, or whatever." Dominique's voice carried a kind of patient tolerance, the tone of someone explaining something obvious to someone slower than them. But comfortable isn't a vision. Comfortable isn't ambition. I've been trying, I have genuinely tried, to see where we are in 5 years, and every time I try to picture it, I just see— She trailed off. Then, the same thing, the same house, the same truck, the same Saturday morning at the hardware store. And that's bad? It's ordinary, Tasha. Her voice was not unkind. That was the part that settled into him like cold water. She was not saying it with venom. She was saying it the way someone states a fact about weather. He is an ordinary man. He has peaked. And the hard part is, I don't even think he knows it. You can just feel it on him. That kind of settled. Comfortable, this is enough energy. And maybe for somebody that's fine. That's probably fine for a lot of women. A short pause. It's just not fine for me. So why haven't you said anything to him? Because the timing is never right. Dominique's voice softened slightly, took on something almost gentle, almost apologetic, but not quite. And because he is a good man, he really is. I don't want to hurt him. But you're going to. I know. The word landed quiet and untroubled. I keep waiting for a moment that feels right. Something clean. I don't want it to be a whole thing. Another pause. He's going to be so heartbroken, though. Like, genuinely. He actually thinks I'm it for him. You can see it every time he looks at me. There was a short silence on Tasha's end. That's a lot to carry, Tasha said. I know. Dominique made a small sound, not quite a laugh, not quite a sigh. Something between the two. The sound of a woman who found the weight of someone else's feelings mildly inconvenient. It's actually kind of sad. He's out here fully committed and I'm just… She stopped. I'm just waiting. Jordan looked down at his hand. He had not noticed that he had pressed his palm flat against the wall beside him. He moved it away slowly. Does he know about Brett? The question came from Tasha, and it arrived in the hallway like something dropped from a height. God, no! Dominique laughed. It was quick and easy and utterly uncomplicated. The laugh of someone who found the idea mildly absurd. No, absolutely not. Okay, Tasha said. Her voice had gone a little careful. It's fine, Dominique said. Everything is fine. I just need to figure out the timing. Jordan stood in the hallway for another moment. He did not move. He did not make a sound. He simply stood there in his own home with the keys in his hand and the ring in his pocket and absorbed every last word until there was nothing left to absorb. Then he turned around. He went back out through the side door the same way he had come in. Slow, quiet. He pulled it shut behind him with the same care he had used coming in, the latch catching without a sound. He walked to his truck. He got inside. He sat there. After a long moment, he reached into his jacket pocket and took out the velvet box. He did not open it. He just looked at it, sitting there in his palm, small and dark and exact. Then he set it on the passenger seat beside him. He stared at it. The street outside was ordinary and unhurried. Someone's sprinkler had come on across the road. A kid on a bike rolled past without looking up. Jordan started the truck. He did not go back inside. He pulled away from the curb and drove, and the ring box sat on the passenger seat beside him the whole way, and he did not touch it again. Andre's apartment was on the 4th floor of a building in Midtown. Clean, compact, smelling faintly of coffee and whatever Andre had cooked earlier in the evening. Jordan had not called ahead. He never needed to with Andre. He just showed up, and Andre opened the door. And that was that. Andre took one look at his brother's face and stepped back from the doorway without a word. They sat at the kitchen table. Andre had poured 2 glasses of water. Neither of them touched the glasses. Jordan talked. He did not raise his voice. He did not editorialize. He laid it out the way he laid out a job estimate. Every line item in order, nothing skipped. Sweet, but that's all he has. Just a contractor. Ordinary. He peaked, and he doesn't even know it. He said the words exactly as Dominique had said them. He kept his voice level the whole way through. He did not look away from the table. Andre sat very still. That was the thing about Andre. People who did not know him assumed he was always in motion, always loud, always the first one talking. And usually that was true. But in moments that mattered, Andre could go completely still. He was still now. His jaw was set. His eyes had gone dark and quiet in the way they went dark and quiet when something made him genuinely angry. Not surface angry, not inconvenienced angry, but the deep, slow-burning kind that did not make noise right away. Jordan got to the end of it. He said Brett's name. He said what Tasha had asked. He said what Dominique had said back. God, no. And the easy laugh that came with it. Then he stopped talking. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere below them, a door closed. Andre said, "I'm going over there." "No." "Jordan." "No." Jordan's voice was flat and final. Not raised. Just done. "Sit down." Andre had not stood up, but something in him had leaned forward, and now it settled back. He looked at his brother. Jordan met his eyes. "She thinks I don't know," Jordan said. "That's the only advantage I have right now, and I'm not burning it tonight. She sat there and called you ordinary to your face, to Tasha's face, not mine." Jordan picked up his water glass and set it back down without drinking. "She doesn't know I was in that hallway. She's going to go to sleep tonight thinking everything is fine. I want her thinking that for a while longer." Andre was quiet. His hands were flat on the table. "She's been building something behind my back," Jordan said. "I need to know what it is before I move. All of it. Not half of it, not most of it. All of it." He looked at Andre steadily. "You know people in finance. Brett Calloway. That name mean anything to you?" Andre thought for a moment, shook his head. "Regional VP. Wellness, or adjacent, I think. She met him at a conference." Jordan kept his voice even. "I need whatever is publicly available. Professional background. Where he works, who he works with, what his footprint looks like. I'm not asking you to do anything that isn't already out there. I just need someone who knows how to find it fast." "I've got 2 people who can have that by Thursday," Andre said. His voice had settled now. He was already doing the math. "Thursday is fine." Andre looked at him for a long moment. There was something in his face, not just anger anymore, but something older. Something that came from years of watching Jordan work and build and give, and knowing, in the specific way a younger brother knows, exactly what this cost him. "You all right?" Andre asked. Jordan looked at the table. "Not tonight," he said. "But I will be." That was all either of them needed to say about it. Dinner at home was chicken and rice, something Dominique had put together while he was gone. She asked where he had been. He said he had stopped by Andre's. She said that was nice. She served them both and poured herself a glass of wine, and the evening moved forward the way evenings do, ordinary and warm and entirely false. He washed the dishes. She dried them. She bumped her shoulder lightly against his at the sink, and he smiled at her. And the smile came easier than he expected, which told him something about himself he was not sure he wanted to know. On the couch afterward, she reached for his hand. He let her take it. Her fingers wrapped around his, and he sat there with the television on, and her hand in his, and he did not feel what he was supposed to feel. He felt something else entirely. Something careful and clear, and very, very cold. In the glove compartment of his truck, parked in the driveway, the velvet box sat in the dark. He left it there. That night, he lay on his back in the dark and stared at the ceiling. Beside him, Dominique's breathing went slow and even. She was asleep. She had no trouble sleeping. Jordan stared up at the ceiling, and he thought about every word she had said. He peaked. You can feel it on him. This is enough energy. It's actually kind of sad. He let each one sit there. He did not push them away. She said men like me never go anywhere, he thought. She has no idea how far I've already planned to go. Andre texted on Wednesday morning. 2 words. Come by. No time? No explanation. Jordan read it between site visits, slipped his phone back into his pocket, and finished his afternoon without changing his expression once. He got to Andre's at 6:30 that evening. Andre was standing at the kitchen counter when Jordan walked in. He had a folder in his hand. Actual paper printed out. The way Andre got when something was serious enough that he did not want it living on a screen. He set it on the table without preamble. "Sit down," Andre said. Jordan sat. Andre did not sit. He stood at the edge of the table with his arms crossed, and he talked. His voice was controlled, not calm exactly, but controlled, the way a man's voice gets when he has already spent 2 days being angry and has run out of places to put it. "Brett Calloway," Andre said, 38, regional VP at a wellness distribution company out of Charlotte. Before that, sales director at 2 different health brands over 6 years. Clean professional record. Well connected. He runs in a specific circle. Industry conferences, brand partnerships, that whole world. He paused. Dominique's world. Jordan looked at the folder. He did not open it yet. "My contact placed them together at a hotel in Charlotte," Andre said. 3 months ago. The conference she told you she went to alone. There it was. Jordan did not move. He heard it the way you hear a crack in a wall. A small sound, precise, that tells you something structural has already failed, and has been failing quietly for a long time. "She was distant that week," Jordan said. His voice was even. "I know you said that. I thought it was the project she was managing." "I know." Jordan was quiet for a moment. Then he opened the folder. There were printed photos. Nothing compromising, nothing that needed to be. Conference name tags. A group shot at some kind of industry dinner where Dominique and Brett stood close enough to tell a story without meaning to. A second event. Different city. 3 months before Charlotte. A LinkedIn screenshot showing mutual connections, shared industry events, timestamps that formed a line when you put them in order. A line that went back almost a year. "This was not a conference thing," Jordan said. "No," Andre said. "It wasn't." Jordan set the papers down slowly, one by one, the way you set tools down at the end of a long day, carefully, with intention. Not because they were fragile, because he was. "How many events?" he asked. "My contact counted 4, where there's visible familiarity. Could be more." Andre finally pulled out the chair across from Jordan and sat. He put his elbows on the table. "She's been managing this for at least 12 months, Jordan. This whole time you were—" He stopped. "Planning," Jordan finished for him. "Yeah." The word landed and stayed. 12 months. He had been pricing rings, running numbers, quietly rehearsing what he was going to say on one knee, thinking about which restaurant, thinking about whether to call her father first. And Dominique had been at industry dinners with Brett Calloway, standing close enough to tell a story. For 12 months, she had not stumbled into something. She had built something. The same way Jordan built things, deliberately, with foresight, one layer at a time. Except what she had built was a parallel life, and what it was built on was him standing still and trusting her completely, and never once asking the questions that apparently needed asking. Jordan closed the folder. He did not throw it. He did not push back from the table. He sat there with his hands flat against the cover of it and breathed once, slowly. And when he looked up at Andre, his face was composed. "I need to talk to Camille," he said. Andre nodded. "I figured. Not about this specifically. About my assets. I want to make sure I know exactly where everything stands before I do anything else." "You think she'd try to—" "No." Jordan shook his head. "It's not about what she'd do. It's about what I know. I want to walk into whatever comes next, with the full picture. Not most of it." He looked at his brother. "All of it." Andre held his gaze. "Okay." Jordan stood, picked up the folder and tucked it under his arm. He would not leave it. He would file it the way he filed blueprints. Flat, organized, labeled. Evidence of where the damage was and how deep it ran, kept close until the moment it was needed. He left Andre's and sat in his truck in the parking structure for a moment before starting the engine. He called Camille. She picked up on the second ring, And before she could say anything warmer than hello, he said, "I need a lunch. Private. Just us. I need to talk through some things about protecting my assets." A beat of silence. Camille knew him well enough not to ask for more over the phone. "Tomorrow work?" "Tomorrow works. Noon. I'll text you the place. Thank you." He hung up. He set the phone on the passenger seat. The folder was on the seat beside it. He looked down at his hands resting against the steering wheel, calloused, scarred in small places, the hands of a man who had built things with them since he was 22 years old and had not stopped once. He was not finished building yet. Camille was already at the table when Jordan arrived. That was a Camille thing. She was always already at the table. She said once that being early was the only form of control worth having in an uncertain world, and Jordan had never forgotten it. She had a glass of water in front of her and her phone face down beside it, which meant she had cleared her afternoon. She looked up when he walked in. She did not smile exactly. She just looked at him, the way she always looked at him when she knew something was wrong, with that direct, measuring attention that never felt like judgment. It felt like inventory, like she was counting what was still standing before she figured out what needed shoring up. Jordan sat down across from her. He ordered coffee when the server came. He waited until the server left. Then he talked. He told her everything. He told it the same way he had told Andre, flat and factual, in order, without editorializing. He told her about the side door, the keys in his hand, his name in Dominique's mouth. He repeated the specific words, ordinary, peaked, kind of sad. He said them the same way Dominique had said them, not performing the pain of them, just placing them on the table where they could be looked at clearly. He told her about Brett Calloway, about Charlotte, about the folder Andre had put together, and the conference photos, and the line of events that stretched back a full year. Camille did not interrupt once. She sat with her hands folded around her water glass, and she listened. And when he finished, she was quiet for a moment longer, which was also a Camille thing. She did not fill silence to be polite. She filled it when she had something worth saying. "Is she on any accounts?" she asked. "No." "Joint lease?" "She pays her own rent. I own mine." "Any shared investments? Anything she co-signed or you co-signed?" "Nothing." Jordan shook his head. "We were not there yet. I was careful about that. Not because I suspected anything, just because that kind of thing should be earned." Camille nodded slowly. "Okay." She unfolded her hands and sat back. "Then you're clean, Jordan. Whatever you decide to do next, she can't touch any of it. The house, the properties, the business accounts, all of it is yours, structured correctly, and she has no legal claim to a single dollar." "I know," Jordan said. "That's not why I called you." She looked at him. "Then tell me why." "Because I need 3 more weeks," he said, "and I need to be smart about how I use them." He explained it plainly. He did not want Dominique suspicious. He did not want her defensive or distant or braced for anything. He needed her exactly as she was right now, comfortable, certain, slightly condescending in that private way of hers that she had no idea he could see. He needed her to feel like everything was normal, like Jordan Whitfield was still the man she had neatly filed under manageable, right up until the moment he wasn't. "I want a formal letter drafted," he said. "Not served yet. Not sent. Just ready. I want every fact documented. What I heard, what Andre found, the dates, the events, everything written and ready to go." "Ready to go where?" Camille asked, not skeptically, just precisely. "To whoever needs it," Jordan said. "I don't know the full shape of it yet. But I want it to exist. I want it written down and signed by you, and I want it ready." Camille looked at him for a long moment. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a small notebook. She still kept a physical one, another thing Jordan had never forgotten, and she uncapped a pen. "I'll have a draft to you by Friday," she said, "and I'll keep it clean. Just facts, dates, direct quotes where you're certain of the wording." I'm certain of the wording. I know you are. She wrote something. What else? I need you to be somewhere with me when the time comes. As a witness, not just as my attorney. As someone who can confirm what she knows and what she heard, and that none of this is a misunderstanding or an overreaction. Camille did not hesitate. Tell me when and where, and I'll be there. Jordan nodded. They ordered lunch. They talked through the logistics quietly, practically, the way two people talk when they have known each other long enough that neither of them wastes time on the parts that don't matter. By the time the food came, the shape of what Jordan was building had edges. It had dimensions. It was not just anger with nowhere to go. It was a structure, and structures he understood. After lunch, Jordan sat in his truck in the parking lot and made 2 calls. The first was to Marcus Webb, a developer he had been in careful conversation with for several months about a mixed-use renovation project, a $2.4 million job, the kind of contract that would double Whitfield Build's profile in one move. Jordan had been slow to commit, wanting to be sure. He was sure now. Marcus picked up on the 3rd ring. Jordan said, I've made my decision. I'm ready to move forward. A pause. Then Marcus, warming immediately. That's what I was hoping to hear. I'll get the paperwork started this week. Good, Jordan said. Let's build something. The second call was to his bank. He moved a significant portion of his liquid savings into a separate account, one that existed only in his name, organized and clean. A clear line drawn around what was his before anything could blur it. Not hiding, clarifying. The way you mark load-bearing walls before a renovation so nobody cuts through the wrong thing by accident. He hung up and drove back to the job site. He pulled in, parked, cut the engine. He got out, lifted his hard hat from the back seat, and settled it on his head. The afternoon sun was still high. His crew was working. He could hear it before he could see it. The sounds of progress, of things being made. He put on his gloves and walked toward the noise. He felt calm, not numb, calm. The specific calm of a man who has stopped waiting to understand the problem and has started solving it. He went back to work. The message came through Marcus Webb's assistant, of all people. Jordan was on the job site when his phone buzzed. A text from a number he didn't recognize, short and careful. This is Tasha Monroe. I got your number through Marcus's office. I know that's strange. I just need 10 minutes. Please. He read it twice. He set his phone in his shirt pocket and finished directing his crew through the morning's framing work before he stepped away to the edge of the lot where it was quiet. He wrote back. Name, the time, and place. She was already there when he arrived. The coffee shop was a small, unremarkable place, the kind with mismatched chairs and a chalkboard menu, and no one who would recognize either of them. Jordan had driven past 2 closer options on the way and chosen this one deliberately. Tasha was at a corner table with a coffee she hadn't touched. She was dressed like someone who had come from work and changed her mind about how professional to look. Blazer, no bag, hands flat on the table. She looked up when he walked in, and something in her face shifted. Not relief, exactly. More like the expression of a person who has finally made a decision they kept almost making and backing away from. Jordan ordered a black coffee at the counter, brought it to the table, and sat down across from her. I appreciate you coming, she said. You said 10 minutes, Jordan said. I've got 10 minutes. She nodded. She looked down at her untouched cup. Then she looked back up. And when she spoke, her voice was steady, but her hands weren't. They pressed flat against the table like she needed something solid under them. Dom and I had a falling out, she said. It wasn't about you. It doesn't matter what it was about. But after it happened, I couldn't keep carrying this. I've been carrying it for months, and I don't... She stopped, started again. It's not right. What's been happening? It's not right. And you deserve to know. Jordan said nothing. He let her find her footing. "She's been talking to her family," Tasha said. "Her mom, her sister. For months now, she's been telling them that you're not serious marriage material, that you're financially unreliable, that your business doesn't have real prospects." She paused, watching his face. His face did not change. "She told them she'd been staying with you while she figured out her next move. She told them she was waiting for the right time to end it." Jordan wrapped both hands around his coffee cup. He did not drink it. He just held it. "She was building the story ahead of time," Tasha continued, "so that when she eventually broke things off, nobody in her family would ask too many questions. It would already make sense. You would already be the guy who wasn't enough. She would have made sure of that." Tasha's jaw tightened. She wasn't floating, Jordan. She had a plan. She had a timeline. "And Brett," Jordan said. Not a question. Tasha's eyes dropped briefly. "Charlotte was real. I know you probably already knew that part. But what I don't think you know is that it's gone further than that. They've talked about her moving. He has a regional office about 4 hours from here, and they've had real conversations about her relocating to be closer to it." She looked at him directly. She wasn't walking away from you and figuring it out later. She already knew where she was going. She just hadn't told you yet. The coffee shop was quiet around them. Somewhere near the counter, someone laughed at something. A chair scraped against the floor. The ordinary sounds of a world that did not know it was sitting 10 feet away from the moment a man found out exactly how thoroughly he had been managed. Jordan looked at Tasha for a long moment. She did not look away. "I'm sorry," she said, and the word came out raw, the way words do when they've been held too long. "I should have," she shook her head. "I don't know what I should have done. But not this. Not stayed quiet this long." Jordan set his cup down. "I have one question," he said. She waited. "If I needed you to say what you just told me, to Dominique's face, in a room where she could hear it, would you do that?" Tasha was quiet, the kind of quiet that has weight in it. Then, "Yes." Jordan nodded once. He thanked her, and he meant it. Not warmly, not coldly, but plainly, the way he said everything that mattered. He left money on the table for both coffees and walked out. He sat in his truck for a moment before starting it. The afternoon light was flat and gray, the kind that made everything look exactly like what it was. He reached into the glove compartment and took out the ring box. He did not open it. He just held it in both hands, feeling the small, solid weight of it, the velvet worn slightly at one corner from all the times he'd touched it without thinking. He thought about what she'd said. A timeline, a story built in advance, told to people whose opinions mattered, constructed so carefully that by the time Dominique was done with him, the explanation would already be waiting. She had made him the ending of a story he never knew she was writing. He held the ring a moment longer. Then he set it back in the glove compartment and closed it. Not yet. Jordan extended the invitation on a Tuesday evening, casual as anything, while Dominique was scrolling through her phone on his couch. "My mom's birthday is Saturday," he said from the kitchen. "Small dinner at her place. Just family. Camille's coming too." He poured himself a glass of water. "I'd like you to be there." Dominique looked up. Something warm moved across her face, the practiced warmth of a woman who understood what an invitation like this was supposed to mean. "Of course," she said. "I wouldn't miss it." Evelyn Whitfield's house was a small brick ranch on a quiet street, the kind of home that had been loved for 30 years without being renovated. Clean floors, old furniture arranged with intention, photographs on every surface. It smelled like roasted chicken and something sweet from the oven. The porch light was on before they even pulled into the driveway. Dominique had dressed carefully. A deep green wrap dress, gold earrings, a smile she could hold without effort. She brought flowers, yellow tulips, and when Evelyn opened the door, Dominique presented them with both hands and a warmth that would have convinced almost anyone. Evelyn accepted the flowers. She smiled the way mothers smile when they are thinking more than they are saying. "Come on in," she said. "Dinner's almost ready." The table was set for 5. Andre was already there, jacket off, leaning against the kitchen counter when they came in. He looked at Dominique and said, "Hey," and his voice was pleasant and entirely empty. Camille arrived 10 minutes later, kissed Evelyn on the cheek, hugged Jordan, and sat down without ceremony. Dinner was good. The food was real. Roasted chicken, rice, green beans with garlic, cornbread that Evelyn had made from scratch. The conversation moved the way conversation does when most of the people at the table are paying close attention to something they are not talking about yet. Evelyn told a story about a neighbor. Andre asked Dominique a question about her job, and listened to her answer with his chin in his hand. Camille refilled her water glass twice and said very little. Dominique was at her best. She laughed at the right moments, asked Evelyn about the photographs on the wall, complimented the cornbread twice. She reached over and touched Jordan's arm when he said something that made the table laugh. She was performing, and she was performing beautifully, and she had no idea that every person sitting at that table already knew exactly who she was. Jordan watched her. He ate his food. He let the dinner happen. Evelyn brought out a simple cake after the plates were cleared. Yellow cake with white frosting, candles already lit. They sang. They ate. The table relaxed into dessert, the way tables do when the hardest part of the evening seems to be over. Jordan set down his fork. "I want to say something," he said. His voice was quiet, unhurried. The table settled. "Before I do," he continued, "I want to make sure I'm talking to the person I thought I knew, because everything I'm about to say depends on that." Dominique looked at him. Her smile held for a moment. Then something behind her eyes shifted, almost imperceptibly, like a light changing. Jordan looked at her calmly. "3 weeks ago, I came home early on a Thursday. You were on FaceTime with Tasha." He paused. "I heard the whole thing." The room went still. "I heard you tell her I was sweet." That sweetness was basically all I had. His voice did not waver. "That I was just a contractor. The way you said it made it clear you meant something more than the job title. That you couldn't imagine me in certain rooms. That you were embarrassed to explain what I do to people whose opinions matter to you." He looked at her directly. "You said I was ordinary. You said I had already peaked and didn't know it." He let that land. "And you said it was kind of sad, that I really believed you were the one." Dominique's face had gone very still. "That same week," Jordan continued, "I had someone look into Brett Calloway." He kept his voice level. "Charlotte was 3 months ago. The conference you said you attended alone. Your involvement with him goes back at least a year. Multiple events. Multiple witnesses." He folded his hands on the table. "And I heard from Tasha last week. She told me what you've been saying to your mother and your sister. That I'm financially unreliable. That I have no real prospects. That you've been waiting for the right moment to leave." He paused once more. "She also told me about the relocation. That you and Brett talked about you moving closer to his regional office. That you had a timeline, Dominique. You had a destination. I was just what you were doing while you waited to get there." The silence in the room was absolute. Dominique straightened in her chair. Her expression shifted, the warmth falling away like a coat she no longer needed. "You went through my life," she said. The sweetness in her voice was gone. What replaced it was something cooler, more clipped. "You went looking for something to use against me." "I listened," Jordan said. "In my own hallway. That was a private conversation. People vent. People say things they don't fully mean." She looked around the table, a quick, instinctive scan. She looked at Evelyn first, then at Camille. "You know how it is. Everyone has a bad week. Everyone says more than they—" "I've known for 3 weeks," Camille said. Her voice was quiet and entirely final. "Everything Jordan stated tonight is accurate. I've reviewed the relevant details. There's nothing here that's been exaggerated or mischaracterized. Dominique stared at her. André said nothing. He sat back in his chair with his arms folded and looked at Dominique with an expression that was not angry, not gloating, just clear. The expression of a man who had been waiting a long time to let someone see that he saw them. The silence stretched. Then Evelyn picked up her napkin from her lap and set it beside her plate. She looked at Dominique without heat, without drama, just with the steady, tired clarity of a woman who had been reading people her entire life and was rarely wrong about them. "I cleaned office buildings for 16 years, she said, to make sure that man had what he needed. I watched him build everything he has with his own hands, from nothing." She paused. "And you sat at his table and let him love you while you were telling your family he wasn't worth keeping." She looked at Dominique for one long, quiet moment. "I need you to leave my table." Dominique stood. She reached for her purse. She did not look at Jordan. She walked to the front door, and the sound of it closing behind her was not loud. It was just final. The table was quiet. The candles on the birthday cake had burned low. The plates were still there, the half-eaten slices of yellow cake, the water glasses with their rings on the tablecloth. Ordinary things, solid things. Jordan sat with his mother and his brother and his oldest friend in the silence that followed, and for the first time in 3 weeks, maybe longer, the ground beneath him felt like it would hold. Jordan called Dominique at 7:15 the next morning. She picked up on the second ring. "Jordan, I'm going to say 4 things," he said. "I need you to listen." She went quiet. "We're done." His voice was even. No heat, no tremor. "If you need to collect your things from my house, send me a time and I'll make sure I'm not there. After that, don't contact me." A brief pause. "I hope you find what you're looking for." He ended the call. He set the phone on the kitchen counter and stood there for a moment. The house was quiet around him. Morning light came through the window above the sink in a long, flat stripe across the floor. He poured the rest of his coffee down the drain, rinsed the mug, set it in the rack to dry, and went to get ready for work. He made one other call before he reached the job site. Marcus Webb was the marketing director at Caldwell Properties, Jordan's largest commercial client, a mid-sized developer he had worked with for 3 years. Jordan had referred Dominique's wellness brand to Marcus's team for a joint campaign almost 8 months ago. A professional bridge he had built himself, connecting 2 parts of his life that he had believed at the time were both worth investing in. Marcus picked up after 2 rings. "Jordan, what's good?" "I want to give you a heads up," Jordan said. He kept it brief, professional, the tone of a man tidying a shared workspace before someone else had to notice the mess. "Dominique and I have separated. I don't anticipate any complications on either side, but I wanted you to hear it from me, not through the grapevine, so there's no awkwardness if her name comes up in your orbit." Marcus was quiet for a half-second. "I appreciate that. You good?" "I'm working," Jordan said. "That's the same thing." Marcus laughed quietly. "Fair enough. We'll talk soon." Jordan hung up. He pulled into the job site, parked, and got out of the truck. He had not said anything false. He had not said anything cruel. He had simply made sure that the first version of the story that reached that circle, a circle Dominique had deliberately cultivated through Jordan's own professional relationships, was his. He did not know, and would not know for several days, about Tasha. What Tasha did was not coordinated. It was not a strategy. It was simply a woman who had been carrying too much weight for too long and finally set it down in the wrong place. Or, depending on your perspective, exactly the right one. She was having lunch with a colleague named Priya, who worked in brand partnerships and traveled in the same mid-size marketing circles as Dominique. The conversation shifted the way conversations shift when people are relaxed and off guard. And Tasha said something she had not planned to say. Not everything. Not a speech. Just enough. that Dominique had been involved with someone seriously, that the someone did not know about Brett, that the whole thing had just come apart badly and publicly. Priya knew someone in Brett's regional office. By the following Wednesday, Brett Calloway knew. He had not known. That part, it turned out, was true. Whatever Dominique had told him about her personal life, she had managed it carefully enough that Brett had no clear picture of Jordan, his name, his reality, the 2 years he and Dominique had spent building something together. When the full shape of it reached him, Brett did not call Dominique to discuss it. He did not offer explanations. He simply went quiet in the particular way that men go quiet when they realize they have been a piece in someone else's game without being told they were playing. The relocation, the timeline Dominique had been quietly constructing, the future she had been angling toward, while Jordan slept beside her, dissolved without ceremony. There was no confrontation, no dramatic ending. There was just a door that had been open, and then was not. Dominique's mother called her that same week. Her sister, too, within a day of each other. Neither of them knew the specifics. They knew only what Dominique had told them over the past several months, that Jordan was going nowhere, that he lacked ambition, that his finances were unstable, that she was too smart and too driven to stay. They had listened and nodded and affirmed her. Now they watched their daughter, their sister, start over. Alone. In an apartment she was suddenly responsible for on her own. Without the man she had dismissed, and without the future she had quietly planned, instead. Neither of them said much. They didn't need to. Jordan stopped at the jewelry store on his way home from the job site. He walked in, set the small velvet box on the glass counter, and told the woman behind it that he needed to return it. She asked gently if everything was all right. "Everything's fine," he said. And he meant it. She processed the return without fuss. Jordan signed where he needed to sign, pocketed the receipt, and walked back out through the glass door into the early evening air. He stood on the sidewalk for a moment, hands in his jacket pockets, and took stock of what he felt. Not grief. Something cleaner than that. He thought of a wall he had once taken down on a renovation, a wall everyone assumed was decorative, inessential. When he pulled it, the structure beneath it was solid. The bones of the thing were sound, stronger, in fact, than the surface had suggested. That was what this felt like. He walked to his truck and got in. The magazine was sitting on his doorstep when he came down for coffee. Not a digital notification. Not a link forwarded by someone in his network. An actual print copy, the kind with weight to it. Regional Architecture and Design, spring issue, mailed ahead of the public drop date as a courtesy to the subject of the feature. He picked it up on his way back from checking the mail, tucked it under his arm, finished making his coffee, and sat down at the kitchen table. He turned to page 47. The headline read, "Built from the Ground Up. How Whitfield Builds Became One of the Region's Most Trusted Names in Mixed-Use Renovation." Below it, a photograph of the completed Dellwood project, the $2.4 million mixed-use renovation, finished and fully occupied, its brick facade clean and warm in the late afternoon light. Jordan remembered the day that photo was taken. He had been standing just off frame, talking to one of his crew leads about a punch list item. He had not known the photographer was shooting. He read the piece slowly, the way he read blueprints, carefully, taking note of the details. The writer had gotten most of it right. She wrote about Whitfield Builds doubling its staff in 14 months. She wrote about the Dellwood project, the scope of it, the timeline, the way Jordan's crew had managed a gut renovation on a mixed-use building without a single OSHA incident and 4 days ahead of schedule. She wrote about Marcus Webb at Caldwell Properties, saying, on the record, that Jordan Whitfield was the contractor you call when you want it done right the first time. She also wrote about Darius. Darius Cole was 26 years old. He had come to Jordan 2 years ago through a workforce development program. Young, technically sharp, still rough around the edges in the ways that a year of real job site experience would eventually smooth. Jordan had seen something in him immediately. Not just the skill, but the hunger underneath it. The specific hunger of a young man who knows he is capable of more than anyone has yet trusted him with. He had mentored him through 2 full project cycles, given him increasing responsibility, watched him earn it. And 8 months ago, Jordan had offered him a junior partnership in Whitfield Builds, a formal stake, a real title, a seat at the table. The magazine quoted Darius directly. "Most people in this industry will use you. Jordan is the first person who showed me what it means to actually invest in somebody." Jordan set the magazine down and picked up his coffee. He looked out the window at his backyard. The morning was clear and cold, the kind of cold that made the air feel sharp and clean. The third investment property, a 4-unit in a neighborhood 2 miles east, was already fully rented, cash flowing quietly in the background the way the first 2 did. No drama, no announcement, just the steady accumulation of a man who understood that wealth is built in layers, not announced all at once. He sat with the quiet for a moment. He thought about Dominique, not with grief, not with anger. The thought arrived, and he observed it the way you observe a passing car. It came, and it went, and it meant nothing about where he was standing. He had heard, through no particular effort on his part, that she had relocated 8 months ago. A smaller market, a lateral title. The move she had planned for herself shrunk down to the version available after the version she wanted fell apart. He did not know the details and did not look for them. It was not his story anymore. His phone buzzed on the table. He picked it up. The message was from Tasha. Saw the feature. "You deserve everything in it." That was all. No explanation, no preamble. He read it once, set the phone face down, and finished his coffee. Andre had made a reservation at a good restaurant, the kind of place with cloth napkins and a wine list organized by region, the kind of place their mother would have told them was too expensive and then let them take her to anyway. They ordered well. They ate slowly. They talked about Evelyn, how she had finally agreed to let Jordan replace the water heater that had been running on borrowed time since 2019, how she had attended her church's senior bus trip to Savannah and come back with photographs and strong opinions about the food. They talked about Andre's work, a promotion he was modest about but clearly proud of. They talked about the next project Jordan was scoping, a residential development on the east side, 3 single-family homes, a smaller footprint than Dellwood but cleaner margins. There was no heaviness to the conversation, no performance. At some point, between the main course and dessert, Andre looked at him across the table and said, "You look different than you did a year ago." "Different how?" Andre thought about it. "Like yourself," he said. "Like you're actually here." Jordan nodded once. He did not add to it. And Andre did not need him to. He drove home alone after dinner. He pulled into the driveway, killed the engine, and sat for a moment in the dark interior of the truck. The neighborhood was quiet. A porch light across the street threw a small, warm circle on the pavement. He did not think about Dominique. He thought about the East Side project, about the soil reports he needed to review, about a conversation he wanted to have with Darius in the morning, about managing the subcontractors. He got out of the truck. He went inside. He got to work. I hope you enjoyed that one. Be sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next story. I've picked out 2 more for you that I think you'll really like.